I'm gonna open this. If it's green, I feel like that's a good omen. That shit
I
not
didn't realize we were
green.
doing this live.
Oh, it's well,
That's horrifying. And there's the influencer
welcome
here.
back, Labubu FC. Okay, well, I think that's rare actually. Okay,
New
well,
podcast name. There we go.
welcome back to Soundwaves from the Sea. Our Seattle Sounders have not been eliminated in two games from their first round MLS Cup playoffs matchup. They take game two by a score of 4-2 after quite the wave of emotions, huh, fellas? I mean, going up by three goals in the first half, in the first 40 minutes, and thinking, oh, wow, all right, you know, belt to ass, let's get back to Minnesota. And then I think there was 8 minutes of stoppage time
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
first half. Minnesota says not so fast, my friend, and makes this a one goal match going into halftime, which I don't think
Not
anybody's
ideal.
happy about, right? Thankfully, Seattle's able to slam the door shut on this one. Obed Vargas nets a second in the 86th to kind of halt the brakes and make sure there's no scaries on a Monday night at Lumen Field. Could the Loons do it on a November Monday night in Seattle? No, they could not. Yeah, there's a lot to look at. I have a lot of questions for you guys with this match in specific, but of course, as we generally do to start things off, since Big Mike joined first, I'm gonna go to Mike first, and then I'll go to Owen. Uh, Michael, what did you think about this match and how it ultimately played out? I know again, there's a lot of things I want to look at with how they lined up, maybe letting up a little bit, like Owen mentioned in our group chat, which we'll talk about. But just your general thoughts on this match and maybe how you feel about the series currently.
We talked about last episode that the Sounders need to start fast, and that they did. They took it to Minnesota immediately from the jump. They were pressing hard. I love seeing the Sounders pressing structure, especially like in that almost like a 3-5-2 almost the way they're setting up at times in the first half. And honestly, like Danny Musovski is him. I'm just gonna say it right now. I know both him and Jordan Morris got the goals, but also I was looking back into it, doing some research, big capital J journalism right here. With when Danny Musovski is starting for the Seattle Sounders, they have a goal difference of plus 21. When he doesn't start, they have a minus of 9 every time Danny Musovski is not on the pitch. So I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. No, in reality though, the Sounders they got it done. They did exactly what everyone was talking about, what they needed to do. Schmetz got his game plan 100% correct. Yeah, there are a couple misses here and there, especially in like in that first half. Those two goals to close out the half, and then the opening 15 the second was a little rough. But like, I'm happy with this performance.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing coming into this was the formation change, which we didn't expect. I certainly didn't expect. And when I saw what I told you guys was like, oh, this is just like, I thought Jordan Morris looked really great as a winger in the last game. I think this is just a way to get him really high and wide. But then looking at, what they did with these forwards during the game, a lot of the time was the goal was literally just to have two guys in front of the goal. Like the entire time. And sometimes that was I think on the Musovski goal is actually Jordan Morris who's wide, and then it's Jesus Ferreira who flicks onto Danny Musovski. But the goal with that setup is not to be able to like have one guy stick with the center back and either like have another guy drop off and play off of him or get a guy going super wide. It was just to have two guys in front of the goal the whole time. And it worked. It really did. That's how they scored three of their goals, two of their goals. The other two with the
Two of the goals, yeah.
Vargas ones, and I was impressed. I really didn't think they would make a change. I'm curious if they'll stick with it if they go to Minnesota, but or when they go to Minnesota. But like, I mean, that was the biggest thing for me. Minnesota really didn't know how to deal with two forwards. And I'd have to look into it a little bit more. But just the amount of times, like even not even just on the goals, but the Sounders did a really great job of driving to the baseline. And getting crosses off, and the amount of time somebody was open on the back post because their defenders gravitated to the front post. They're like, oh, we need to go mark Jordan Morris at the front post because he will get his head on something, and he did. He just flicked it backwards instead of directly towards the goal. It was a good game for the tactics.
I think the first thing that at least I was thinking last night, when we were kind of going back and forth.
Yeah.
in the group chat was, I mean, I think, at least on this show, because I know there are certainly people, not really the big outlets, the big people who cover the Sounders per se are super critical of Brian. There are folks raising my lack of eyebrows here in the space who think Brian shouldn't, it should have been gone years ago. I think Brian does deserve some credit, well, and the staff, of course, because obviously it's not just one man making all the choices. Um, for turning things around. Again, I'm not saying any of us here were like, oh, they're not going to fucking do it. Like he's an idiot. No, there was none of that. But I was, yeah, as Owen mentioned with the formation, I don't think any of us expected that to change.
No, absolutely not.
Like they came in, and the optimist in me said, hey, they'll find a way. I didn't expect it to be like this, right? But I think uh at least for this match, because I'm not ready to say, okay, they did it. They figured it out. They still have to get to game three and go through that. What is that on Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday, 1
Yeah.
p.m.
Yeah, okay. I thought I saw the 1 p.m. and I was like, really? We're doing a 1 o'clock game? Okay. But
Big
yeah,
noon
I just think they deserve credit, not only obviously for the staff, but obviously the players for executing it. Because you can put these guys in positions to succeed and they can still, mess it up.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, to a level, it's like, oh, great. It took them 4 games to figure out how to do that. Like, okay, cool. But it is like the other thing that I was thinking about is that like a lot of times when teams change formation, and it's like you saw this like three different ways. I think like FotMob had it as the 4-2-3-1, and then the Sounders put out their formation graphic with the two strikers, and then I the actual MLS broadcast had something different. But like a lot of times it's really more about the personnel than it is about like what they're saying it looks like. And like the truth was it was something different this game, and that's not something the Sounders do a lot, is like legitimately change tactics. And I wanted to go back to Mike's point. I think a big part of why it works so well is that is that Minnesota really, like we saw in the first game, but especially in this game, really couldn't counterattack. It didn't happen in the first half, and it was because Nuhu was so far advanced in this game. He was like basically spending the entire time like pressed up against their right wing back
Morales.
in their half of the field. And so every time they went forward, they were pretty much attacking with four people. They didn't have anything on the right side, and so the Sounders would kind of just press them over to the left and suffocate them that way. And there was no option to switch it because Nuhu, the guy wasn't running to attack Nuhu in his own half. Nuhu was already up there, which is dangerous. But they bet on it because Nuhu has the recovery speed to deal with it. And it really worked, and that's why like those opening like 15 minutes were all Seattle because there was no opportunity to break out because they couldn't switch the ball.
That's what makes Nuhu so good and so indispensable for this team. And going back to everything we've been saying all year, that Nuhu is the best left back on this team, and it'd be a shame if we didn't resign him
Yeah, I mean, because it's just
next season.
like Reed Baker Whiting like is technically great. Like he has the ability to play left back, but he doesn't have the recovery speed to play like that. And it's just like you're not risking getting burned if you play Nuhu like that because like not only like can he catch up to guys, but guys know that he can catch up to them, and so they're not going to try that. They're going to try something else, and they know they could probably beat Reed for pace, and so like they will be willing to play that ball over the top, where they won't do it against Nuhu.
And you saw them trying to do the opposite side with Alex Roldan, like trying to
Yeah,
attack
mm,
him, but even then he still locked it down. I mean, like there's one play specifically I'm thinking of when he had Markanich on him, and Alex Roldan did something I've never really seen him do, just actually box a dude out in the box in the 18,
yes,
and then
yes.
able to play it out like the defense locked it in that first half, and it was great.
Yeah, I was and Steph Fry made a reflex save, which we were talking about on the pod in between one and two. Is like maybe if this one goes to penalties, that is the wrong decision. But like I don't know if Andrew Thomas makes that save. I have great confidence in Steph to make those reflex saves still, and he paid it back.
it is really cool to see a guy that, you know, is at the at or near the tail end of his career, right? Still control. I don't know. I'm a sucker for shit like that, right? Like Mount Rushmore sounder. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
No, absolutely not. He made the most
Um,
important save in the history of the club.
Still contributing, in the big 2025. Uh, the rolled on piece. Um, I was interested when Alex was subbed off for Kalani because one, feed my Kalani agenda. Two, I was like, because he was a halftime sub, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, that's not great. Like either like he's hurt or he you think he got burned really badly on the two goals, which I didn't think he did. I don't think he was the nearest defender to those. Well, he's got he had groin tightness, but should be available for match three. Feels so weird saying match three. Like I'm
Game
used to
three.
series
It's so American, it's stupid. There's
I
not a
know, literally.
single league in world football that does this, and it makes me so angry. But you know what? Here we are.
Yeah, I had a buddy texting me last night watching the match, and she was like, "Hey, what do you mean this is game two of a series?" I was like, "Yep, America." I said, "Oh, okay." Um, yeah. So I was interested in that a bit. Totally losing it. Yeah, I guess to go back to the formation bit of it, I know Owen, you talked about it, with the two guys up top. This was interesting to see. Like it was kind of funny watching the match because there was a lot going on last night. I had my eyes all over several things going on. So seeing the formation, I was like, "Hey, is this like a Photoshop? Like, did someone? Am I reading the actual Sounders account? What is this?" Because I'm so used to them being in one set place, one set formation, keeping that look and rotating a few guys here and there, right? But seeing Moose and Jordan Morris on the field at the same time, I'm not mad at this sort of thing. Um, I don't know. Was there any other sort of like formational thoughts? And I have to imagine they run it back in game three, right? Like obviously there will be adjustments that Minnesota will make, but I have to feel like you really enjoyed what you saw if you're Brian Schmetzer and the Sounders from how they were able to produce with this look.
I feel like with this formation, like whatever we want to call it, like a makeshift diamond 4-4-1-2-1-2 or whatever the hell they did, but like Jesus Ferreira was another standout player for me. I feel like he had so much freedom to move into whatever space he could find, and he took advantage of it with both two assists. Both kind of looked like they might have been accidental, but still he got into those spaces to get to the ball first. Like especially that Jordan Morris goal where he was able to flick on that header. Like I feel like we're seeing Jesus Ferreira finally getting settling in and finding his spot in this team, and I think we're gonna see him like just burst out from here.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing for me is just that like they're able to do this because Minnesota only plays two men, like two true midfielders. Like they spread guys so wide on the counter that those two like winger wingback players, the two wide players, like aren't really a factor in midfield. So they're able to pull a guy out of the three that they usually will push into midfield in the 4-2-3-1. And I mean that's why you're able to get an extra guy in attack. It's also why you probably don't run this out against LAFC. It's or I mean not like against a team that is going to roll with a four back formation because like yes, Christian Roldan and Obed Vargas are phenomenal, but they're like you never want to be outnumbered in midfield, especially with two guys. Like the way that they played this style is to have two guys high constantly. And then let those Obed Vargas and Christian Roldan be one on one in midfield and maybe tuck Alex Roldan in there. Um, that's not going to happen against a team that has three really strong midfielders at a playoff level. Um, yeah, I will be curious to see what it looks like on Saturday because I think I mean the adjustment that I make if I'm Eric Rems is that I push a player into midfield. Maybe I look at one of these center backs and I say, and this would have been notable if they had a center back suspended for the red card, Dogso, which
Oh,
obviously didn't happen, and we can talk about that. But maybe I put a player in the middle of my three that's more comfortable stepping into midfield to take advantage of that imbalance and be able really to push on the counter. I'd be curious to see if they do something like that because that's now where it's kind of up for grabs. Is where you're 2-on-2 in the midfield.
There are also times, especially in that I mentioned it in the first bit with this, in the second, like first opening minutes of the second half. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Minnesota did kind of come out in a different pressing formation. There
Hmm.
instead of that 5-4-1, they're more like in a 3-4-3 type, and I feel like that's the Sounders started struggling a little bit more. I mean, like you said, they had more bodies in kind of pushing in that central area with the wide midfielders pinching in a little bit and causing more chaos there. I feel like if Minnesota does make that change, I have a feeling you're right. They're going to bring the extra body in. I can honestly, if they can do it, they have the players to do it. But if we saw Minnesota come out in a 4-3-3 and kind of push everything right through the middle, I think we can see the Sounders struggle a little bit. But ultimately, I think the Sounders have the momentum, and I can see them taking it and going on to the next round.
Yeah, I mean, a player that I'm interested in and who we really haven't seen too much of in the series is Julian Gressel. He's one of the most he's one of the I think best technical players in MLS. He's when I'm playing him, I think of him as a wide player. He's a guy really who's one of the best crossers of the ball in the league. But if I start thinking about putting him out wide, um, that's somebody who I look at as, hey, I'd be really comfortable tucking him in, and letting someone else float wide. I'd be curious to see, if he gets a little bit more run in this game, especially if they're down, and even if he was maybe to start.
Do you think we would see the Sounders struggle a little bit if Yeboah was starting at the nine as opposed to Robin Lod?
Potentially, I think the biggest thing for Minnesota in these two games is that they've struggled to break out. Um, it just really depends on how you want to do that. I mean, Yeboah is, a bigger dude than Lud is, and I think of Lud as a guy who really can push the line. I mean, you saw it on the two goals, and I'm sure we can talk about that. But like there is a level to which you say like I like Lud because like he gives me an option to stretch out the field really quickly. Um, Minnesota doesn't like to leave a guy high, and if that was what they were going to do with Yeboah like that, I'd be curious to see that because that'd be a pretty big departure from what they like to do.
Yeah, I mean, that opens up. I do want to look at that because with the goals, like to kind of transition there and look at that directly, right? It was, it felt like such a momentum shift because you're up 3-0. 40 minutes in, you're thinking, okay, wow, this is great. You're at home, you know, uh, Sounders matches in the playoffs at home are always very fun, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Um, and then very quickly, even after the first goal, I think Owen and I were like, hey, this is not great. You're a little overconfident. Maybe need to not be so get back to what works for you, right? And then they get a second one. We talk about Lud, coming in there. I props to the Sounders for being able to lock back in and have some structure again. But I was like, hey, I think I said this to Mike before you got on, Owen. I really thought that Minnesota was gonna find an equalizer, and all of a sudden its next goal wins. Obviously at that point it's still near halftime, but it just seemed like Seattle was the entire match was turning on its head. What did you guys see as the biggest thing, for Seattle in the moments? What was it? A span of 5 minutes where Minnesota got those two goals? I can double check that. Um, well, yeah, 5 minutes. Jesus, 45 plus one, 45 plus six. I was right. Look at that. I know some letters and numbers. Yeah, I don't know. What stood out to you about that? Because I know, like, from remembering what Owen and I were texting about was just getting a bit overconfident, being kind of caught off guard and not in position. What did maybe Owen? Yeah, I've mentioned you and I texting about it so much. What did you see out of that really ultimately led to Minnesota opening the door back up after it seemed like it had been closed?
Yeah, I mean the image that really stands out to me is I think it was after the second goal, but like yeah, Yamar is just like messing around with the ball, really gets caught. Playing out of the back, which is a situation where you're okay, but the Sounders really like I said we were texting about Charles like getting overconfident so much that knew who is still way up the field that those
Ah,
two midfielders are still way up the field because it's been a game where they can be okay with that. And credit to Minnesota, we've talked about the Sounders repress in this game. Minnesota did a great job of stepping and isolating Amar, and then Lud makes a great run. But like Steph is like on the ground, like slamming his hand, and he's like because this is not something that we see the Sounders do that often. Um, and I mean, part of it's because it's not often that they play a team and they're up 3-0 like this in a situation where they really are pushing for more. Part of it's because this is a playoff match where goals like this is a series where goals are really hard to come by, and they're in a mentality where they say we're going to go get as many as we can. But yes, they got overconfident in that moment. But for it to happen twice is really concerning because this is a team that you say like not only is it really smart, but it also learns from its mistakes well, and that really didn't show up in that moment.
It's just two big lapses of judgments, both from, especially from Yammer, but even like with Jordan Morris, way he was kind of lackadaisical in his first touch, and after that first goal they got, and he
Yeah.
way Minnesota just kind of blasted past everybody. The thing that concerns me though about the second goal was watching Load able to get in behind Jackson Reagan so easily, which is something that we've kind of seen attackers do, especially with Yamar and Reagan, not really being the fastest center backs in the
Ah,
world. Yeah, they're both really good. Their positioning has been, especially Reagan's has gotten really good past couple seasons, but like if teams start noticing that, especially like out of transition, I feel that we might struggle a little bit there. But luckily, Minnesota's still not a good enough team offensively to do stuff that can do that consistently. But I fear for the rest of the playoffs going forward, should the Sounders get a result in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean the reason they didn't do that more, I mean, because the run that Lud makes is good, but it's legitimately like the thing they teach you in high school. It's like make a diagonal run in between the center backs,
Mhm.
um, in front of one, behind the other. Like it's a like I mean, and it works. It's a great way to take advantage of the space. The reason they didn't do it more often is because they were never in that position.
Yeah.
Um, there are very few opportunities for him to run at the defense. That's why I'm curious what this forward setup looks like for the Loons. In game three. Just because I mean like really I mean it's again it's 101 but it's like you want to create opportunities where your striker's running at these guys and you have a guy carrying the ball and a guy running in behind. Um that didn't happen much in this game and it's not something that their situation really is built to create it other than those opportunities on the counterattack. I think it was a really good run from Lud. It puts the defenders in a really tough situation, and where Reagan's, Yamar's out of position, and and Reagan is left to decide whether he's stepping and trying to isolate Lud offside, or if he's gonna try to like hang back with him, and it's a really tough situation for him. The Sounders obviously didn't deal with it too well.
that is some I did remember from watching Lud's goal. I was like, at least towards the end, I'm like, what do you want to do with him? Because I mean, if you try to make a play there at the very end, you're likely giving up a penalty. I mean, um, yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a good point. I am. It's so funny because I've just gotten so used to, seeing to Mike's point, right, about their speed. It's a good point. I've gotten so used to Jackson Reagan and EMR being so good for you that when, a weakness of theirs is exploited, it's kind of like, hey, what the fuck? I didn't know they could do that. Um, I do want to tip you on Jesus because it's been interesting seeing how he's been handled this year, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's how the Sounders have played him, you know, uh, how the fan base has reacted to him, um, like throughout the course of the year in different spots, and not always super consistently, right? But he has contributed to this team. I'm not saying he's racked up the goals or anything, but I mean they're better off with him than without him. Um, it was kind of funny on the middle two goals, neither of the Vargas goals.
Yeah.
Seeing the Christian Roldan, Jesus Ferreira insert striker, sort of copy and paste there. Just I obviously like I want to give credit to Jesus, but I just continue to find myself thinking, and I think we talked about this throughout the course of the regular season. Where is this team without Christian Roldan? I mean, not only just getting into those positions, um, that lead to the two goals, but obviously what he does on a pitch for 90 minutes, like you kind of run out of things to say about the guy. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Messi. Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. There's too much going on this month, the last 2 months. When is MVP? Like, when does all the
I
award
don't
stuff?
know.
And it's been
I,
going on like every other day, it feels like. I mean, literally like before kickoff, Dane St. Clair was named goalkeeper of the year, and yet he let in like three sitters that he should
oh,
have saved. But like, I'm sure MVP will be announced here soon.
yeah. My point is right. Is just I hope that he gets some consideration. I don't know if they break things down like by vote, right? Because I'm used to other leagues where it's like he got so many first place votes, second place vote. You know what I mean? Like I just it's remarkable the year that Christian has had, and obviously with the double pivot with him and Obed. I think we talked about it last episode or one of the recent episodes about how important either of them are. Um, I just a match like this continues to emphasize how important to me, Christian is through my eyes. And I was thinking about that even with the cross in from what the goalkeeper's left side of the box. I was like, this is the same thing happening over twice. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to, heap praise on my goat Christian Roldan, you know, University of Washington guy. I don't know what do you want me to do. No. Did you either of you guys anything on Jesus or Christian? Because I mean, I brought them both up, but obviously glazed on Christian a little bit there.
I mean, Christian, if not for Messi, should be a top two candidate for MLS MVP this year. And I feel like we're not the only ones to say that. I mean, there are like top pundits are talking about it. Even like pundits across overseas, I've heard mentioning his
Really?
name. I mean, we talked about it like during the Club World Cup. Like people were mentioning him and Obed Vargas's name just because like, oh, the Seattle Sounders, they're doing really well against Atletico Madrid. Um, but I mean, this I feel like the Sounders seem to be nowhere without Christian Roldan this year. And I think that's a fact. And on Jesus Ferreira, just gas him up a little bit. Him and Danny Musovski, that pairing, I would not expect to have any other year to be really well, doing really well. But this season, I feel like they both complement each other so well because the way Danny Musovski moves and opens up that space for Ferreira to move into, I just feel like it's a very underrated pairing. Even though they're not strike, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with yeah all of that. I think for Christian Roldan, his MVP vote is or his MVP spot is a spot on the World Cup roster. That's the goal for Christian Roldan right now.
Yeah.
And we heard some great stuff on the broadcast from the team there, just about they were talking about not only is he fighting for a spot, he thinks he's fighting for a starting spot.
Mhm.
And like that is what this attention gets him is consideration for that spot. I thought we've talked about how great he is. And he's really well. I thought it was really interesting. Again, we don't put too much stock in the formation graphics. It's more about the personnel. But Jesus Ferreira was listed as like a left center mid in this graphic, which had
Mhm.
me like banging my drum for the Jesus Ferreira
Like, yes,
Bernardo
yes,
Silva
yes.
reincarnate. Um, but I thought it was really interesting because I mean when we talk about like maybe playing a player in that Minnesota back three who's more comfortable stepping in midfield, it's to block off the space that Jesus Ferreira takes because this formation gives Albert Rusnak a lot of ability to go into those wide areas, but it's the space that opens up between these two midfielders that like are isolated and end up trying to press Christian and Obed to end these three center backs who are held deep in their own half by Jordan and by Danny Musovski, and that's where that space opens up, and that's where exactly where Jesus Ferreira wants to be. I mean, we've talked about it. Um, I thought it was impressive in this game. It's that zone 21 space where like you sit right there right on top of the box. Um, and the Sounders just really haven't been able to get him open in that space necessarily. Both out of a combination of hey, we need you to be a winger in this system because of injury or because of necessity or because we think that's what's best for this 4-2-3-1. And because Albert, we're going to give Albert that space. But in this look, they kind of gave Albert the license to take some of that wide space or to step up into that position where Jordan vacates when he goes wide. And so that space opened up for Jesus Ferreira. I thought it was really nice fit tactically. The center mid thing was interesting. It made me feel a little bit validated.
It makes me think that this team can play a 4-3-3 very successfully, and I think we should do it. I think it'd be fun. That's just me though.
Go down to training. Hey, Brian, I got an idea for you. Little
Hey,
slip of
Brian.
paper, 4-3-3. Fuck out of
And
my
then
face.
also saying, "Hey, I really like Jordan Morris. Now here, take it.
Jordan Morris.
Don't hate me, please."
You and Moose should just play together so that I can watch you both instead of one or the other. Jesus. I guess I'll move along the midfield a little bit. I mean, it is like obviously nothing's finalized, right? Because we all figure he'll be gone in the near future, right? And good for him. We've this has been talked about Sounders people wise for years,
Feels like
year-ish.
it.
Yeah, feels like it. But for Obed to be the guy that opens the scoring in this one, gets you the early goal. As soon as he scored in the seventh, I thought, hey, Mike said they should do that. Which, I'm not saying it's the most groundbreaking statement, but I thought it was important they were able to get after it, right? And then to kind of put the final nail in the coffin in the 86th, it's really cool to see, obviously it continues to what his journey has been, right? I think what he became the fourth Sounder to score two goals in a playoff match. I think that's what the
Yeah,
stat
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Um, like how long do you get to keep this guy? I mean, because what I think Mike you said last night is like he's not getting past the winter window. Um, and honestly, if someone comes knocking with that nice bag for you, what's to stop you? You know. Um, I don't know. It's tough because it's like you want to appreciate the guy, but they're like, "Hey, go." I'm not telling him to leave immediately, but it's just really cool to see him perform even better. Owen bringing up the Club World Cup, right? How much that did even more wonders for him, and now in the playoffs and the match that they needed, he starts it and he ends it effectively, right? I mean, I don't know how much longer is this guy around?
I think there's just no way we keep, like I said, like you said last night, there's no way we keep past the winter window. Like he's had so much worldwide exposure. Like there's teams that are scouting him from all over the world. It's like, how long do you keep a young player with this much talent on your roster and who has European aspirations? And how many offers do you decline before I start pissed off the player? That's my biggest concern with this. That's my point I want to get to. Like, I know the Sounders will not get in the way. At least I don't think so. But like, come on, he has to be leave on his way out soon, like packing his bags here after the playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, yeah, yes, absolutely. And I think the other side of it is that the whole point of this Sounder system is that Obed Vargas, they hope is not the last Obed Vargas. He wasn't the first Obed Vargas, but Obed Vargas is the next Danny Leyva. Like the whole point is that, like, yes, losing this kid is gonna hurt. Like he is really really important, and you saw how important he was in this game. And yes, he was the man of the match for the goals, but also because of the role that he played in overwhelming the Minnesota midfield along with Christian Roldan. Like that is what made him the man of the match here. Um, and the hope is that like what made him so successful is that they're able to steep him in the system for years and years and years, and he's able to come here and look like a veteran. He's like the amount of time that it took Christian Roldan to play like that, like you got that ability from age 16 because he played in a system, and the Sounders have such a holistic identity. Now I'm getting into my business classes, holistic identity from top to bottom, and like how they play is so secure. I would be shocked if Obed Vargas is the last Denny Leyva.
What's the minimum you accept for Obit Vargas?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in my business classes yet.
That's
That was something, when Mike was talking, I was like, you talk about offers, right? I'm like, what is the point? And I'm sure they're at the current moment, they're just focused on the playoff run and such, right? But I'm sure as Craig Weibel, another fellow bald, uh, there's a number that maybe Oregon comes in at 9 in the initial college football playoff rankings.
Oh,
Um,
really? Wow.
well, look out for you guys.
I gotta check in on that.
What was it? I do wonder what the number is, right? That like I'm sure there's a range they're looking for, but at what point, you bring up the offers, Mike? Does someone send you, I don't know how it works. Someone contacts you and says, "We're gonna offer this much." You're like, "Oh shit. Here you go." Like, Obed, hey, thank you. Well, let's get the graphic made. Thank you, Obed Vargas. Let's go. Again, you're not pushing him out, as has been said, but I think it's just a happy, like, all right, we know you want to go further along. You've contributed enough whenever this playoff run ends, right? Um, I am curious about that, and I am curious ultimately what the number ends up being. Um, because what's a safe like low, like at least 10, right?
yeah. I think 10's good. I mean, his current transfer market value, according to Transfermarkt, is like 8 million ish.
Interesting.
He has
Okay.
1 year left on his contract, so realistically, if thinking like European terms, like get like maybe like 10, 11 million out of him because he's a young player with high potential. I think
Yeah,
that's pretty realistic, but like still he's coming out of MLS. Most leagues in the world don't really respect MLS all that
yeah.
much. Except for like Mexico, South America, maybe
Okay.
smaller European leagues, but like I don't know. It's all
High
a numbers
single
game, but like
digits.
yeah. High
Okay,
single digits
interesting.
minimum, but like I had somebody in my mentions yesterday saying like, oh, he'll probably get like $2 to $3 million if he goes to Mexico, and maybe 4 to 5 if it goes to the Eredivisie. And I'm like, they just turned down a $10 million offer this summer. Like, what are you talking about?
I also saw again. I know there's some things I should read and some things I shouldn't. I can barely read as it is. Where someone's like, "Is it really a possibility he goes to Europe on a free?" I was like, "He's not going on a free." I don't know what
That
world
would be
we're in.
wild if that
Can
happened.
you imagine? I don't. You know, the crash outs would be very large, and I think understandably so. Um, yeah. Ovid Vargas land. The other thing I'm still talking about this match because I don't know. I came out of it thankfully after they finished it. When it was 3-2, I was not feeling so hot. Um, I felt pretty jazzed coming out of it. God, I sound so white. Um, but with how they were able to change things, just feeling great about how the Sounders were able to adjust things, right? I feel, I think earlier, I think it was you, Mike, who mentioned, hey, they've kind of got the momentum. It might have been one of you, either of you guys. There's a lot going on. I'm also trying to do this so that Owen can do his Oregon stuff. Um, I do feel like they've got momentum on their side, right? As happens in a series, it goes back and forth. Um, but one of the other things that makes me feel Indiana, wow, that makes me feel good about Seattle going into match three is something with you look at the bench, right? Being able to bring on a Paul Rothrock as late as they did. I don't remember if it was too late. I'm gonna double check that. 66. Okay, not super late. Sorry. Being able to bring on Paul Rothrock to come and grind out, a defense, right? You still had Georgie available off the bench. I don't think he came off. No, he didn't. It was only Kalani and Paul. You've got Georgie on there. You got Osaze. We still have Ryan Kent still exists. He's on the bench. As far as we know, he's good. Like you're available for selection, buddy. Um, I don't know. I just feel like obviously it's dependent on them being able to, you know, uh get in behind or get those scoring chances. But uh, given what Seattle's got on the bench, if they keep the same formation, like I feel pretty good about whether they need another wave of reinforcements with the guys I just talked about, or you're trying to kill it off and you need someone to be rage bait king and Paul Rothrock. I don't know. Like the substitution part, I thought that was something that stood out. Just being able to bring on a guy like Paul, who has started for you most of the year, right? Um, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Any disagreements or agreements on that?
No,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
perfect. Also,
yeah,
pay the man. Pay Paul Rothberg whatever
That
you
that's
want.
part two.
Whatever he wants.
That also.
yeah. I think the thing you get out of this is like tactical diversity. Like you're able to bring Paul
Mm,
Rothrock on. I mean, we talk a lot about what it's like to have a guy who's able to run at a fullback after he's been tired the whole game, but it's something completely different to like show a different look. It's like you know playing a whole game in 11 personnel and then suddenly rolling out a drive in 13 or 22 or something, and having to make adjustments in game. I mean, I think that's why it's notable they did this like in the 66th minute because Minnesota gets this halftime period to look at, again, a new look that Sounders are giving them and how they deal with it. And then 20 minutes later, Brian Schmetzer says, here you go, deal with something different. Like that's what excites me about this. I was curious to see there wasn't a little bit more rotation because it is a shorter break in between these two matches. And you didn't give a guy like Georgie a run or a guy like Osase a run, especially if they're looking to play with um, Danny and Jordan and all those guys the same formation in that third match, just to chill them out a little bit, especially if they're going to push early. But I'll be curious to see what it looks like.
Do you guys think that the Sounders go as hard as they did in Minnesota as they did this last the last game
I
yesterday,
mean, you
or do you
got it,
think
right? You got it.
I don't
You're
see why
playing for
not.
your season, and it's what
it's
works.
It's the playoffs, bro.
Yes.
Championship mentality.
Yeah, it's what works, man. It's they finally found the formula.
Yeah, well, at
And
least with these guys, right?
you just got to roll in with a backup plan, like an ability to change, and some thoughts about what I mean. And this is stuff that they know, but some thoughts about what different looks from Minnesota might look like. Because again, another team that's pretty averse to change. It's exactly what the Sounders were, and then they switched formations. So I would you got to have a backup plan here. The worst thing the Sounders can be in this next game is surprised.
Mm, it's a good point. Um, Sorry, yeah, I got all excited thinking about this. Anything from this? Anything else remaining? Oh, well, there is the big other thing because I know last week I was like, oh yeah, it's the playoffs. There's not much yet to talk about besides the match itself. And then the next one, there is other news. But I want to put the close the book on this one. Is there anything else from the match that I didn't talk
nah, you're
about?
good. Nah, you got it.
Uh, how do you anything further on how you feel going into game three? Because as I said, maybe it's the foolish optimist in me. I tend to believe in things. It's the hope that kills you. It has killed me several times. Um, I feel good. I mean, I feel a lot better than I did after match one, and see, as Owen just talked about with them being able to change things, it just feels like, hey, if you're Seattle, you've come out, you've responded, you looked different, you forced the game three. Yes, Minnesota will be back at home, but also, and I'm not doubting them. Obviously, Minnesota United has been a good club. They're not inept, right? But just it feels like Seattle, if they unless something happens where they're not able to maintain that same level of intensity, I feel good that they can keep this rolling. And yeah. Just any other thought on how you're feeling going into what? That's a Saturday, the 8th. Yeah, Saturday, 1 p.m. Still fascinating to me. What?
The fact that they were able to put it away and that get that fourth goal makes me feel really good going into game three. If
Mm.
that game match would have ended 3-2 and the second half was felt like all Minnesota, I'd be a little more concerned. But honestly, I have full confidence in the Sounders game three. And hopefully we'll see the Timbers upset San Diego and we have a Cascadia derby in the
Can you imagine?
semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this past game backed up is that Minnesota is a reactive team.
Mm.
Um, that's their ethos, and that's what's worked really well for them. Very rarely are they proactive in terms of let's make a change in order to counter something we've identified. They're much more let's trust our system and our players and our ability. And I think that's what's going to decide this game. The Sounders, it's the same concept, but you have to force Minnesota to react, and to change and to do something to not trust their players to do what is good. I would be surprised if they make a change to their system because the truth is that Minnesota can do exactly what it did in game one, and win this series uh, by scoring less goals, by by winning on penalties, and they'll have full faith in their ability to do that. You got to do something to change that. That's the truth here. Sounders are the ones who have to change this series. Minnesota will be happy to let it be unchanged.
Actually, one last thought that just came to my mind. You mentioned penalties, and then we'll get to our last topic. Do you think that the Sounders, this is going to sound kind of insane, the Sounders should roll with Andrew Thomas in goal in game three in the off chance that Minnesota locks
Ooh.
it down and takes it to penalties? And it might sound crazy. I don't want it to happen, but do you think that could be a possibility?
I think it's more of a
Mm,
possibility now. Sounders made a change last game. I really didn't think so. It's gonna be Stefan Fry.
Oh yeah, easily. It'd be silly to switch it up like that, but like it's not
Put him
impossible.
in the 60th minute, 66th
Depending on how the match looks.
on
Ooh.
the left wing.
Oh, so fucking good. But Jesus Ferrer. I think the way you put it's right. Yeah, I think it's if well, no, if the match played out differently, because if the match played out differently than game two, they probably wouldn't be playing in a game three. Yeah, I would agree with what Owen said. Like it's not impossible, but Brian's gonna go with Steph. I'd be shocked, and I don't think it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. Again, like for all of my take about the fucking goalkeeper controversy, all that,
Stop.
I'm not to doubt Steph. I just believe in Andrew Thomas, and I believe that he is your next up. Um, Steph's giving you all he's got, and he's looked good doing it. He hasn't looked like, hey, you're dragging a dead horse along and you're hoping he'll revive himself. Um, yeah, I think you put it best on. Okay. The big piece of information that I only almost forgot, which kind of was a little shocking. I mean, I didn't expect it. Was the Sounders, the Sportico article coming out
Ah,
that the Sounders have tapped Moelis and Co. As they are seeking outside investors for the first time since the club joined MLS in 2009. They are retaining Moelis and Co. to explore a strategic capital raise, according to a statement shared with Sportico. More specifically, the Sounders are looking for a large minority partner that can lend capital and expertise to the club's big project ambitions. Is that not a Paul Rothrock statue? Including real estate aspirations and include new soccer-specific stadiums at its Long Acres development. We've talked about earlier in the year, I think when Adrian Hanauer brought up I think there was like an event with season ticket holders where they asked questions and they answered questions, sorry. They could be asking questions, I don't know. And this got brought up, not in the investors part, but a soccer specific stadium. Um there's two thoughts, at least for me, with this news, right? When this came out. One, new investor thing, idea. Hey, I mean, you've consistently been one of the best clubs. You could argue the best, given the trophy cabinet, in MLS since you got here, right? Um, Won all these competitions, consistently producing top talent. You're never a bottom feeder, right? You always draw pretty well, even if some people get mad at me posting attendance. Um, you can do more, right? You bring I think Owen mentioned LAFC earlier. You've got LAFC, San Diego. Who knows how long San Diego they can maintain the form they showed, right? I, I, if new new money and then new injection can take you a step further, and you're a bully in this league, so to say, right? Where people are scared of you and you are dominating, kind of like how LAFC handled you last year until you flip the switch. Sure, great, all for it. Let's go. Go and push people around. You get that Obed Vargas money, you get whatever this is, and you smartly, spend some cash, maybe bring more people into the stands, right? Coming into the Men's World Cup next year, whatever. Longacre Stadium, fucking stupid. Why is this a conversation? Because Sounder at Heart, they partnered with someone to do like a survey, and I think the question about a stadium was in there, and most of it, like the reaction to a potential Long Acres development, I believe was negative. That you know I wouldn't be able to make it out. It would make travel harder. There are the folks who are more do travel up from that range who would be happy with it, and that is fine. I just think ultimately with the business of it, it doesn't make sense. You are in a prime location, Seattle, right? Because then if you do this, this isn't Seattle. That's Tequila-ish area. There's nothing around there. Trust me, as someone who loves to get a little snack, get a little coffee before I go into anything, there's nothing around there. I've checked. The closest is South Center, which is like a 15-minute ride. You're not pre-gaming at South Center. Like, the infrastructure is already in place at Lumen. I get that it isn't perfect. You can talk about grass. They don't have a permanent locker room, so to say, right? I just it there's you. I need somebody to lay it out for me what the positives would be, and even then they don't outweigh the negative to me. That is my thing. I just hate this conversation, you guys. I'm sorry to rant at you, but it just doesn't make sense, and it just seems like people with a lot of money thinking they're smarter than everybody else, and that's what we're getting here. That's my thoughts on it. However, you want to look at this new investor potential thing, feel free. I am lost at the idea of a new stadium, and then a new stadium at Long Acres.
That's the biggest thing. If it's in long acres, then it's going to be disastrous for the club. I money wise, the Sounders will own the stadium, they'll own the parking, they'll own all like the stuff around it. They'll have full control, like what kind of revenue they're getting. The revenue stream would be constant, which is always great. But like you have so many great memories and great moments at Lumen Field. You can't replicate that in a smaller soccer specific stadium. Like I want a soccer specific stadium for the Sounders. I think it'd be incredible to play on real grass, but you have to stay in Seattle. You have to stay in Seattle proper. I don't care where it is. Find a spot. Do something. Hell, fuck it. Buy out Memorial Field again. Do something with that. It's not very feasible because it's impossible to build around there. But like, if the Sounders moved away from Seattle proper, we would see like it won't be as drastic, but I can imagine like how when Chicago Fire moved to the suburbs of Chicago, then they had to move back into the city again because their attendance went down in half, which is their attendance is shit anyway. This as a franchise, their attendance is really bad, but it went down to like a less than like 10,000 a game because they moved out of the actual city. And I just fear that sound other Sounders fans, they see, oh, money, better players, more investment, yay, great, but they don't realize like if we move out of Seattle, we're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, just to play the other side of this. I mean, like you guys have mentioned, like it's a business decision they make. Building a stadium is also an investment in the community there. Um, I certainly think building a stadium there, not only says, we believe that our future is here, but it's also
Mm,
a commitment to grow that area, which is something that, looks great for this club and everything that we know about it is that they value community. And I think it's very clear that their community that exists now, yeah, really, really doesn't it doesn't like that idea of a stadium outside of Seattle and what it would represent is a pretty drastic swing in their target market. When Sounders came into MLS, the target market was different than a lot of clubs, which a lot of those clubs that had entered the league or that had founded the league and transitioned were targeting families.
mm,
The Sounders decided to target people who went to bars at 4 in the morning to watch Premier League games. People who supported teams overseas, and that was their target market. And even though that shifted a little bit, they're the Sounders fan remains someone that they believe to be more passionate than the average Major League Soccer fan. I think a move to Renton would change that. Your stadium's right by Family
mm,
Fun Center. It's a place that requires a car to get to.
yep.
And at least in part makes it more difficult to get to on public transport. Um, yeah, building a stadium there is a huge business decision, not only from a financial perspective, but just in terms of the switch in people who you're targeting as fans. It's the time to do it. It's the World Cup historically is a great time for growth. And so
Mm,
if you are targeting a new market, that is the time. And you're looking at it as people who are our fans, who are the more passionate than average person are going to know the World Cup. They know who we are already. Families don't necessarily know, but when they see this competition coming to Seattle, that's something they could be interested in, and we want to be able to present that in a place they can get to. Um, I mean, that said, I think that moving into a place where that infrastructure and the stuff outside of the game doesn't exist is a huge risk. And it's it has to be built on a belief that not only can they draw fans there, but also that they can grow the area. And I don't know if there's proof of that.
Also, I'm not no, I'm not a financial expert by any means. I went to business school for 3 years, but like I got a journalism degree. That's all I have to say about that. But I feel like if the Sounders were to make a move and start building a stadium at Long Acres, like a project that massive, I don't think they would necessarily need to get a minority owner. I think they would have to get someone who wants to take majority ownership of the club. I feel like Adrian would have to sell most of his shares to someone else if they really want to be this ambitious with the club.
Mm.
I saw uh, Jeremiah Ocean also posted out something similar like that, where he was saying that it almost no, I don't see any people investing in the club taking minority for some project
Oh
this
yeah,
big.
yeah. It I I try to be open-minded, right? I try to hear ideas out because again, I'm not the smartest guy, you know. Got my 4-year degree at UW, whatever. You know, I went to O'Day High School. A lot of sports there, not a lot of thinking. Um, guess and Owen brings up great points, in talking because they moved from Starfire. They wanted to stay in the area though. They don't go too far away. They take this old spot that, if you're able to go down there, the facility's great. Getting a tour of it was awesome, so on and so forth. But yeah, you talk about community, right? And I think the infrastructure is part of it because people have their regular spots in Pioneer Square, on Occidental, in the International District even. Um, that exists. They've got the kind of neighborly thing with obviously with the Seahawks, but with the Mariners, if and Mike bringing up Memorial's like it's Memorial is always going to be such a what if, right? Because you know I don't know how it would have worked or if it would have even been possible. But if the Sounders and Rain could have said, "Hey, we want in on this. We'd like it to be," I don't know what she'd even set the number at. Because the Sounders consistently draw 30,000 at least this year. You'd want it to be a little bit more than that, right? You're not shooting yourself lower, I don't imagine. Um, but if you're able to get that, have your own soccer specific stadium, I'm sure they'd love to do that because the Rain have already been there, you know. Uh, Sounders were there previously, right? I forget things. Um, but that's obviously not the case. The thing's being demolished. I don't think it's weird going by there, by the way, now and seeing only one stand up there. It's very weird. Um, that would have been great. Yeah, sure, the parking really isn't there, but I would take that over being in the middle of nothing because, you say if they do go through with that plan in Long Acres. I'm sure over time you could add infrastructure, you could build more around there. There is space. I mean, there is open land, but it takes a lot for people to go out there, build this, you know, invest their own money, have businesses go out there, let alone the public transportation. How many people take the light rail, the bus system? You know what I mean? Uh, I've even seen people bring up the Sounder train. It doesn't necessarily run on enough. Um, so it just seems like an all around, as I think Owen mentioned, it's a risk. I don't think it's smart. I don't. There's a lot that doesn't make sense to me there. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
I
get
mean,
it.
I mean, to tie it all back to where we started this show, it's like the Sounders aren't a team that takes a lot of risks. Don't change their formation a lot. They don't. They make investments in players, but they spend an ungodly amount of time scouting them. Um, they invest in their academy and they grow infrastructure and if you're running a business you want that mentality to be something that runs all the way through and that's why the
Mm,
move would feel like something pretty jarring and like a big step away but that's where a new perspective comes in that's what a new investor brings is yeah a new mentality which is yeah something that we've
mentality.
seen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ah,
I could. share my anger about this for a while. I think they've got something that works. Yes, there are folks, yes, as Mike mentioned, it'd be great if they did have drop. I don't know. People aren't leaving. Like the Seawolves, I don't know if this is, I don't know. I don't know if this is confirmed yet, but they're moving up to the new Memorial Stadium when it's done. I don't know
Cool.
if the information's out there,
Ooh.
but the Seawolves plan to leave Starfire and come up because even Starfire from people I've talked to who how do I say this, are familiar with the plans of Starfire. They would like to do more. Starfire would like to increase their attendance at the stadium that they've got and improve some of the facilities there, but there's no clear timetable for that. So it's great that the Defiance can play there. That when the Sounders are involved in the Open Cup, which I don't know what the plan is for that in the future. Um, who knows? All I know is that Ballard beat Sharktopus pretty handily. Um, you know what I mean? You've got something that works. And as much as some people will have, there are the frustrations with it. It's better than what the alternative is, in my opinion. It'll be interesting to see what comes about with this. As you talk about minority owner and majority owner, Moelis was involved with most recently the sale of Angel City FC and the ended to sell to Bob Iger and Willow Bay, as well as a recent investment into the New York Giants. So they're also currently helping sell the San Jose Earthquakes. So
Absolutely fun.
it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. And I don't know how long that takes, because I feel like something like this takes time, right? So just ask Russell Wilson for more money. Surely he's got more of that. Yeah.
Want that Bronco money.
I mean, they're still paying. That's a good point. Yeah, there you go.
Sounder Nation, let's ride.
Let's sound.
Sick.
That's disgusting. I hated that. It's terrible. Anything else ahead of as we finish this episode? We're all good.
Yeah,
Sound good.
that's cool.
All right.
Let's sound.
Well, I hope you appreciated me yelling at everybody about why they shouldn't go to Longacres. On top of the fact that I already felt good about the club winning match two. Until we see you next time after match three on Saturday, November 8th, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Take care of yourselves. Be well. If you can, to make today a great day. And
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. So where are you going to watch all of the Sounder away games this year?
Away games for the Sounders. Since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great idea. Go Sounders. Hope we see y'all here.